NFTs. Everybody talks about them. But do you understand what they are and how they work? This is going to be the simplest explanation you can find on the web. I'm going to teach you what they are, how they work, why they have value, and what does blockchain have to do with all of this. So bear with me and let's get started. Let's start with the acronym. NFT stands for non-fungible token. The point is, nobody has any freaking idea about what fungible and what token means. So let's break it down real easy, okay? As an example, we're gonna use Monopoly. Now, let's suppose that I am playing Monopoly with Elon Musk, and we have properties and we have money. Now, let's understand what fungible means. Monopoly money is fungible. Fungible means that you can exchange different assets and basically it doesn't matter. If I give 10 Monopoly dollars to Elon Musk and he gives me 10 of his Monopoly dollars, it doesn't matter. I'm not able to say which one was mine and which one was his. I am still rich in the same way that I was before, and he is rich as well. This property of an asset is called fungibility. Monopoly dollars have that property. US dollars have that property. Bitcoin has that property. You can swap one for another and nothing changes. They're indistinguishable from one another. Now, what is non-fungibility? An example of an asset that is non-fungible in Monopoly are the cards that represent your ownership of a property. So let's suppose that me and Elon Musk are still playing Monopoly and we have different cards, so different properties. If we swap them, well, then things are changing. I could get a property that has more or less value, and I can definitely say that the new property that I got from Elon is different from the one that I had before. So these kind of assets, the Monopoly properties, are non-fungible. They are unique, and if you exchange them, there's definitely a difference. A lot of other assets are non-fungible. Art, for instance, is non-fungible. If I go to the Louvre Museum and I take the Mona Lisa and instead of that I put a print of the same painting, it's not the same thing. That piece of art is unique. It was painted by Leonardo da Vinci, and any other copy, even if it's perfect, does not have the same value. So now we understood what is non-fungibility. It's a property of an asset that makes it unique. So if you exchange two assets that are non-fungible, there is always going to be a difference. Now we just need to understand the last concept, which is token. What does a token mean? Let's go back to the Monopoly example and let's think about that little card that I have. That card gives me the rights to build a property on a specific part of the Monopoly game. But if you think about it, that card is not the property. That card is a token. It's something that represents my ownership of that property in Monopoly. But it's not the property in itself. It's not the house. It's something that represents my ownership of the house. It sounds weird, but if you think about it, a lot of different assets work with tokens. Imagine that now I walk into Elon Musk's house. I am physically present in his house. Does that make me the rightful owner of his house? Well, no. He can have a piece of paper from the US office of something, I don't know, that says, hey, I own this house. Even if Gianluca Mauro is inside my house, that doesn't make him the owner. And a lot of different assets work in this way. Imagine I go and steal your car. Even if I'm inside your car, that doesn't matter. What matters, what really says that you own it, is that you have some ownership certificate. All this concept of certificates of ownership, it's basically something like a token. It's some unique certificate that we all agree that represent your ownership of an asset, whether that's a Monopoly property, a house, or a car. So now you have all the elements to understand what NFTs are. They are non-fungible tokens. So they are unique tokens that represent your ownership of an asset that is not fungible. So stuff that you can exchange with other people, but you can't really replicate, you can't duplicate. They're all unique tokens. Now, the interesting thing is trying to understand what does the blockchain have to do with all of this. The concept of NFTs starting to become popular when it was paired together with the blockchain to represent your ownership of digital assets. Digital assets could be pictures, videos, moments, really anything that is intangible. And if you think about it, if you were an artist 10 years ago and you wanted to make digital art, so a digital painting or something like that, there was no way for you to say, I own this one, because pictures, data in general, is fungible. You can take a picture and do copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, and you have a bunch of new pictures. And you can't really say which one is the original one. So NFTs started to make sense when they created these tokens. The tokens are the non-fungible part, and they are associated with some digital property. So this allowed people that make art or want to sell any sort of digital good to establish ownership and create artificial scarcity. If we want to go a little bit deeper into how it actually works, I'm going to show you how, in theory, you could do exactly what I just said without the blockchain. Sounds crazy, right? But I'm about to do that with Microsoft Excel. So let's go on my laptop. So I now opened Microsoft Excel, which by the way, I hate. So I'm doing this for you. And I'm gonna try to build a ledger, so a system, a database that keeps track of different pieces of art and the ownership of these pieces of art. So let's go. Let's start by saying I wanna track the name of the art piece, I wanna track the artist, and then the type of pieces of art. And then I wanna give to each one of these pieces of art a unique identifier. Let's call it a token ID. Now we are ready. Let's fill it up with some art pieces, okay? We have the Mona Lisa. The artist is Leonardo da Vinci. It's a painting. And let's come up with a random token ID. So some unique series of numbers, okay? It's this thing, S, G, U, B, G, etc., etc. Let's do 2 or 3 more. Now, I can keep track of the owners of these pieces of art simply by taking the token ID and copying it on another spreadsheet where I'm gonna say who owns it. Let's do that. Take this, copy, bring it to another sheet, put it here, and then say the owner. In this case, let's say that I own the Mona Lisa, Gianluca Mauro. Let's say that Elon Musk owns the Starry Night, and then Bill Gates owns the David. Now, you can see what is the problem with this. I am the owner of this Excel sheet, and I can do whatever I want with it. So let's say that I want to steal these pieces of art from Bill Gates and from Elon Musk. I could just go back on my Excel sheet, and while no one is watching, I'm just gonna do this. Ta-da! Sorry Elon and sorry Bill, I now own your art pieces. Obviously, this is not gonna work. Today, there are databases like this that are owned by auction houses like Christie's, and we trust them, and it's fine. But if we want to enable a completely trustless service that doesn't depend on anybody to be maintained, that's where the blockchain comes in. The blockchain allows you to do exactly the same thing that I did now, but in a completely trustless way, because the ledger is distributed across thousands of computers that all keep track of who owns what. And this allows me and you potentially to trade pieces of art without any intermediaries. Now, let's go on a website called Etherscan, and we're gonna look at some NFTs. You're gonna see how it looks exactly like what I've done on an Excel sheet. Let's go. Let's start by going on OpenSea, which is the website where most NFTs are traded. And let's look for probably the most famous NFT connection. So Bored Ape Yacht Club. Here we go. This is a collection of 10,000 pieces that in total collected more than $1 billion. This is crazy. And these old monkeys, they look like this. Now, let's click on one monkey. This one. You can see that OpenSea, which is a private company, by the way, reports some properties, exactly like I was keeping track of properties of the art pieces on my Excel sheet. This one, for instance, has a new punk blue background. This background is called New Punk Blue. It has a black holes t-shirt. You can see. Sunglasses, bored unshaven, commie hat, and it's white But these are all things reported by OpenSea, which again is a private company. The cool thing is that OpenSea pulled this information from the blockchain, which, as I said before, and as I hope you know, is completely decentralized. Let's see what I mean by that. If you go on details, you're going to see that there's a contract address here. Here we go. And a token ID, which is 9669. Now I can go see this contract on this website called Etherscan, which allows us to go into the blockchain and see what's written in all these different blocks. Let's go look for our monkey, shall we? If we click on contract and then read contract, then we're going to be able to pull the information right from the blockchain. You can see how these are all the information about the overall Bored Ape Yacht Club collection. For instance, we can see that there are a maximum of 10,000 apes. Now let's go pull back the monkey we had before. We go on token ID, and I think that was 9669, right? I click on query, and here we go. We have a string that points towards an IPFS server, which is a special kind of server that can host images like picture, videos, or really whatever kind of content, and it's immutable. You cannot change it. Now, notice how in the blockchain, there's no picture. This token here that represents the ownership of a bored ape does not have the picture stored in the blockchain. It has a link that points to something else. Now, since this is a special technology, again, it's called IPFS, and it allows you to basically never modify what is it, a specific URL, we need to access this URL using some special tools. Let's just do that right now, okay? A way to do that is to use a tool called Cloudflare IPFS. So you just type cloudflareipfs.com/IPFS, and now I'm gonna paste the code of that bored ape, just gonna delete the initial letters, click, and here we go. We have all the attributes that we had before. It looks a little bit small. So here's the address of the image, the attribute, the hat, we have the background, we have the mouth, we have a bunch of different information. Notice if I take this and put it here, it's gonna give me the image. If you wanna find an owner of a specific ape, you can go back to your contract, you go to owner of, you put the ID 9669, query, and this gives you an address. This is the address of a wallet of a real human being. It could be me. That would be an interesting plot twist. No, it's not me. I don't own an ape, unfortunately. That would be cool. But you can go here and see all the transactions this person has done because they're public. So, as you saw, all these things, all the crypto stuff that is related to NFTs, it's exactly what I've done with my Excel sheet, basically. It's just decentralized, and therefore we don't need to have trust in order to make transactions. You also saw that in most cases, the piece of art is not actually stored in the blockchain. In the blockchain, you just have a reference to a server that hosts that piece of art. Now, serious projects like Bored Ape Yacht Club use something called IPFS, which makes that URL immutable, but some less serious projects use their own servers, so they can still modify what they do, and that's not really great. Now, we understood what are NFTs, we understood what crypto has to do with all of this, we also explored one specific ape. Let's talk about the value in NFTs. I'm gonna go back to my armchair. Congratulations! You now know much more than 99% of the world population about what NFTs are. There's still a question that we haven't addressed though, which is, why do they have value? Well, that's because society decides that it has value. Something has value just because people decide to trade this thing using money, using cryptocurrency, it doesn't matter. But that's because people assign value to these things. If this concept is really bugging you, I think the easiest example to try to grasp this concept is to think about watches. In the physical world, you could potentially buy a Casio watch for $20 and that tells you the time. It's great. But these people, they spend thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy a Rolex. Why do they do that? And does that watch have all that value? Well, probably the watch does not have that much value. I mean, yes, for sure it has great quality, great materials, but most of the value is in the fact that people agree that owning a Rolex gives you status. It tells everybody else, hey, I am wealthy and I believe in certain values. A Rolex could be the watch that you could see in Wall Street. Whereas, for instance, an Apple Watch, it's something that you will probably see more in Silicon Valley because you represent that you believe in some other values. And I guess you're not as rich as a Wall Street investor with super fancy Rolexes. Now, how do you communicate that you're wealthy and you agree to specific values in the digital economy? Well, it's pretty hard to have a digital Rolex that you can just copy and paste, basically. Everybody can have a digital Rolex if you can copy and paste them. So you could see today that NFTs have some value for the people that want to showcase their wealth in cryptocurrency by adhering to some specific values. Owning a $500,000 NFT says something very different from owning a $500,000 watch. It represents different values. It represents that you are part of a different tribe. You're not part of the Wall Street investors with the suits and a tie, but you're part of the cool crypto kids, let's say. So maybe that's not the only value that NFTs are, and I'm gonna make another video where I tell you what I believe is the real value of NFTs, but I think that comparing them to watches, for instance, could be helpful for you to try to grasp this concept of value. That is not something intrinsic of an asset, but it's whatever we collectively decide to attribute to that specific asset. I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope you understood better what NFTs are. And if you are interested in always staying up to date on technology and deeply understanding how that can impact our society, follow this channel because there's definitely more coming. I hope I'll see you soon. Ciao. Before I leave you, I want to tell you that I started my new community programs. In these community programs, you're going to get access not just to these videos, as well as all the research links that I had to read to know about this news, but you're also gonna get access to bi-weekly deep dives. These are 1.5 hour sessions that I do on Zoom where people can come in, listen to me speaking for 45 minutes about the most important topics in tech. I usually take just one, really dissect into the most important things and explain it well for 45 minutes, and then we participate in a conversation when together we try to understand how this new technology or this new trend is going to impact society. I'm going to leave the link so you can check out more information and join it if you want.